A lot of people will buy this and say, yeah, brilliant, I've got a Gibson Les Paul. What you've really got is a tribute to a Gibson Les Paul. Enough differences to make it not as authentic as some of the cheaper options from Epiphone. But obviously the difference is this has got the Gibson name on the headstock. But I suppose the question is it as good as those? Well, I don't know what's going to happen here, honestly. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the Guitaristas. And you are, of course, very welcome. Good to see you. So today, another new guitar to look at. Not what I would call an affordable guitar, this one, by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, because it's a Gibson, as you saw in the thumbnail, it's a Gibson Les Paul Tribute. The most affordable Gibson, however, it's what they call the entry level. Well, it's what I call the entry level anyway. I don't know what they call it, but I call it the entry level Gibsons. The Tributes, this is the cheapest USA made Les Paul you'll get. Pretty sure I'm right in that. No doubt you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the entry level Les Paul. No, not Les Paul, it's Les Paul. I paid £999 for this. It's proper money, but you know, many of you will say, well, it's a proper Gibson. Well, what we're here to do today is to find out if that's true or not. So I thought I'd get hold of one of these. Got a little bit of a Les Paul collection mounting here. Can I say mounting? Is that the word? Well, it's the word I've used. So there you go. Got a little Les Paul lineup mounting. It's not the right word, is it? I've got a little collection of Les Pauls mounting up. Yeah, that works. Got a little collection of Les Pauls mounting up here. From, you know, nice Epiphones up to, I've got a Custom Shop R8, as you may be aware. But there's a gap between the high-end Epiphones and the Les Paul Standard. Financially, there's a big gap. These are official licensed Les Pauls, okay? So forget all the others, forget all the copies, the great copies you can get, whatever they may be. We are talking about Gibson official Les Pauls, and this fills that gap. So I had to, well, look, it gave me an excuse to buy another guitar, basically. This one, which fills that gap perfectly. So what I'm planning to do is do a thorough review of this today, and then next week probably we're going to do a full-on lineup comparison. Well, I think we've got 5 Les Pauls in that, ranging from Epiphone Les Paul Standard to the 59, which is the Custom Shop collaboration. This Les Paul Tribute, Gibson, the first Gibson, the Les Paul Standard 50s, and the Les Paul Custom Shop R8. So that we can do a proper comparison, what are the differences, and we'll do a lot of playing as well so we can hear the differences as well. So for today, what we're going to do is we're going to review this because it hasn't been done, and we're going to do a deep dive that we normally do. It's going to be a detailed review. If you want to get on, don't worry, timestamps are in the description box below. If you want to get on, hear a bit of playing, you know, just get all the, if you just want the bullet points, have a look, and I'm sure what you're looking for is there, you know, neck measurements, pickup outputs, what they are, all that sort of nonsense. It's all going to be there. If, however, you've got a little bit of time on your hands, grab a drink and kick back with me for probably half an hour or so, I would imagine. And we'll have a real close look and a little bit of a natter about this. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of a jam. Cool. So hopefully we've got something for all of you. Gibson Les Paul Tribute. This is the Honeyburst one. They do 4 colours in the UK, probably more in the States because you lot are spoilt with, you know, your Sweetwater specials and all that. But in the UK, we have to put up with, by and large, just the basic colours. They do this honey burst, they do a cherry sunburst, a tobacco burst, and one that they call an iced tea. And I am denied. You know, I've seen a few reviews of this honey burst one, and I thought, well, that looks cool, and I do think it looked really good. I've got to say that in close up, I was a little bit disappointed because it doesn't really pop as much as I imagined it might. This looks a little bit poo brown, really, doesn't it? Yeah, I did say that. It kind of does. You know, it might look better on the. I think it does look better on the cameras. I'm just looking at the monitor there. You can see more of the bursts sort of popping out. It pops a little bit more on camera than it does in real life. So, you know, it's okay though. So, it's got a two-piece mahogany body. You can see the join down there. Two-piece mahogany body, maple cap, two-piece maple cap. You can see the seam down the middle there, and it's got a nice plain top. I think that's what they call flat sawn, isn't it? I'm trying to learn me lingo. The most notable difference from this and the standard is noticeable difference anyway is that it lacks the binding. It has no binding on the neck at all, or around the body there. Just got this scraped edge there. It's got a rosewood fingerboard on this, although I'm not sure you'd be able to guess that from looking at it. As you can see, it looks very dry. Doesn't look like a rosewood fretboard through my eyes, but it is. So there you go. Medium jumbo frets, Graphtec nut. Graphtec nut, that looks okay. And Gibson Deluxe tuners, and of course silkscreen logo on these cheaper versions, as opposed to the mother of pearl inlay, whatever they use to inlay those. The other difference you can't see between this and the Les Paul standard is this has got modern weight relief. This actually belongs in the modern collection rather than the original collection, I understand. So it's got holes under the maple cap to relieve the weight. So let's actually weigh it and see what that does. Okay, so what does it weigh? So £7 7 ounces, or 3.38 kilos. So £7 7 ounces is about £1 lighter than what I would say is a decent weight Les Paul. For my money, between £8.5 and £9 is where a Les Paul should be weight wise. So this, you know, a pound lighter than that, you feel that difference. You'd notice that this wasn't a Les Paul standard, shall I say. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll start having a listen while we take it apart. And what we'll do is we'll have a much closer look at everything. The QC, we'll measure the neck, pickups, have a look inside the pickup cavities, control cavities, and look at the hardware and all that sort of stuff. So let's get stuck in. Right, let's weigh the hardware. Oh, that's light. I was expecting that to be kind of one of the heavier duty ones, but this feels like a lightweight aluminium jobby. Advanced plating, it says on the back there. Yeah, that's light. 35 grams. That was unexpected. This is the Nashville style Tunematic. Again, that's really lightweight. Totally unexpected. I thought these would be the heavy stuff. That's interesting. 29 grams. If that doesn't mean anything to you in isolation, next week we'll do a comparison and we'll be able to compare the weights of the hardware with the other models. And I know, you know what, well, we've done experiments and we know it makes a difference to the acoustic sound, at least. Whether or not it makes any difference to the microphone, to the plugged in sound, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of ongoing discussion about that at the moment, but it definitely makes it sound different acoustically to have lightweight stuff like that. Oh, I'm impressed by that. Having a little close peek QC-wise. As you'd expect, there's no sharpness whatsoever on the frets. They look to be really tidily done. Well, obviously you can see the join along the fretboard, but there aren't any noticeable sticky out ridges or marks or blemishes or anything untoward going on there by the looks of things. Frets look nice and clean and smooth. As I said, the fretboard looks very dry. But apparently it is rosewood. And around the body, it's a satin nitrocellulose finish, this, by the way. So the good thing about the satin nitros is it isn't sticky like, you know, the bigger brothers. They can be a little bit sticky. It's got a very smooth, non-sticky neck. You notice the difference between that and the glossy ones. And you may have a preference. There's no issues at all with the finish, that's what I'm saying. It looks great. 10 out of 10 for finish. So I've said before, Graphtec nut. Oh look, that truss rod cover's loose. Let's take that off now while we're here and have a quick peek in there. So there you go, that's the proper Gibson style. Bell end. I've just decided that that's called a bell end truss rod. It's a nut, isn't it? Bell end. I'm a bell end for saying that, really. Oh well, okay, and bit of glue around the edge there. It's got a W or an M or a squiggle. Don't know what that means. Here you go. I haven't tweaked that at all. It didn't feel like it needed any tweaking, and as I've said before, I don't mess around with things unless I think they need it or they tell me they need it. I raised the action a bit because it was quite low. Right, let's measure the pickup outputs. All controls on 10. So on the bridge, we've got 7.80 kilo ohms, and on the neck, 7.60 kilo ohms. So these are 490R and 490T pickups, I think. What we're going to do is we'll pop them out now and we'll have a look underneath. Okay, let's have a look in the neck pickup cavity. Come on. So here we are, pickup cavity. Not much going on there. Very tidy, as you can see. You can clearly see the maple cap. It's got the initials FH in there. Don't know what that means. You can clearly see that it's got nothing even closely resembling a long neck tenon in there. Pickup here, clearly marked Gibson USA 490R. And in the bridge pickup cavity, very much the same. You can see the maple cap. See, it looks nice and tidy. LPTO, lespaul tribute, it says there, scribbled in marker pen. And on the pickup, it says 490T. There you go. Let's have a look in the control cavities. Right. Yeah, there you go. So I think that's a Switchcraft style switch in there. And there you have the printed circuit board controls with the plug-in pickups. So some people say that it doesn't make any difference whatsoever, and a lot of people don't like them. So at least now you have the information. Cool. No poker chip on that side, as you can see. So what we'll do now is we'll put some new set of strings on it, and we'll see what that PCB control thing sounds like. See if it works, shall we? We'll plug it in, and we'll have a strum, and we'll go through all the controls. And what I'm going to do, incidentally, I'm not going to film the putting the strings on because it's a bit dull, but I'm going to top wrap, because these Nashville style bridges are slightly wider than the ABL ones, and what I didn't film, I should have done, but I forgot, is that the strings were touching the back of the bridge there, which I don't like that myself, because it causes breakages if nothing else, or it has done in the past. So I'm going to top wrap to see. I'm actually not even convinced that it's going to make any difference, to be honest with you. It's quite wide. Anyway, I'm going to top wrap it, and because the other reason is all the other Les Pauls are top wrapped, and we're going to be doing some sound comparisons next week. So we'll make sure this is similar, same, done. So we're just going to do it. Right. So here we are. We're back. New set of strings. I've done an over wrap, as you can see on there, and I'm happy that the strings are no longer touching the back of the bridge, which they were earlier, if I didn't say that already. So here we go. Unplugged. Obviously, it's only this little mic that's picking that up, but you can hear it's got a nice bright snap to it, nice acoustic sound, and a lot of people will tell you that the maple neck is a contributing factor to that. In fact, even Gibson say that in their specs for this guitar, so it must be true. Okay, so let's now, yeah, today's rig. So today's rig, I'm using the little Blackstar HT1HR head, which is a 1 watt tube amp head, which is quite a cheap tube amp. I chose that today because I had a comment last week from somebody, quite rightly, when asking if I could use some amps that everyone can afford. really. To be fair, most of my amps in here I bought second-hand, sort of fairly cheapish, but they're probably around about £400. Like the Hot Rod Deluxe I was using last week, I think I paid 400 quid for. I don't pay thousands of pounds for amps like some people do, because I can't really afford it. And so really this collection that are around me have just been things that I've happened upon, have been bargains, and I've snapped them up because they're probably, most of them, quite good investments. Well, that's what I tell myself anyway. But anyway, so I haven't got any solid state amps. In fact, I'm lying. I've got one. I've got a Vox Valvetronics 2x12 that I've had ages, and I dragged that out of the cupboard the other day and dusted it off, and I will do something with that at some point. But as soon as I started using tube amps, I never looked back, because I just found them so much more interesting, I suppose. As I've said before, tube amps are a thing unto themselves. They're an instrument. You know, it's not about trying to recreate any sound. Each tube amp has an individual sound, depending on all sorts of things, you know, the temperature, what valves it's got in it, and stuff. So I find them interesting, so I use them. But this is cheap. So this HT1 head is cheap in that it costs about 200 quid you can get them for. I've said this before, this is what I use at home to practice. One of the reasons I did that is because it's got an emulated output. It's got a no load, whatever it is, output. You can plug your headphones into it. You don't need a speaker, basically. You can plug your headphones in and away you go. And it sounds awesome through a set of headphones. It's the sound that I would always like to try and recreate here, but rarely can. And the closest we probably get is with this today. It's an HT1HR head, a couple of hundred quid, and you can plug it through any old cab. I happen to be plugging it through a Fender 1x12. It's quite an old Fender 1x12 that I picked up somewhere for 60 quid. And on the pedal board today, what we've got today is we've left the Spark booster on there from last week. I've put the Super Overdrive, the SD1 on there, and I've put a wah-wah pedal on there because I'm going to muck around with some Joe Walsh ideas today, and I wanted to try and emulate his voice box he used to use. Do you know what I mean? Well, I don't know what's going to happen here, honestly. But this is what it sounds like. So, no, this is none of the pedals are on at the moment. The amp has got two gain stages. It's got an overdrive and a normal, which is a crunch. This is on the normal side. It's cranked almost all the way up. The gain isn't all the way up. It's on here's a shot of it, you can see. But this is what it sounds like with the guitar fully cranked. Get the idea? The controls all seem to work fairly well. This is the volume. And the tone on the bridge. So it works okay. You need to get that bits fully rolled off. You do need some drive to just bring out the brightness again. it works. So, and same with the neck. So yeah, it's got some stuff going on. Okay, so here's the neck profile and measurements at the 1st fret. And here's the neck profile and measurements at the 12th fret. It's got a nice rounded C shape to it. It's not too skinny and it's not too fat. It's definitely a medium. Feels you know, pretty comfortable. So there you go. That was the Gibson Les Paul Tribute. Hopefully we've had a good old listen to this guitar making some clean noises and some dirty noises, hopefully. So you get an idea of what it sounds like. Hopefully you get a good idea of what it sounds like. These pickups, they're certainly designed and marketed as a fairly hot version of PAF humbucker. Fairly hot, quite a lot of mid-range, they say. Mid-range orientated. With the construction of this guitar, I think particularly because it's got a maple neck, it's quite a bright guitar. However, I found it quite muddy. The neck pickup was quite muddy on this particular guitar. The controls worked okay, not brilliant, not brilliant compared to a good working set of CTS pots that are in some of these other Les Pauls. But you know, the volumes work and the tones work, so you know, we can't sniff at that. It works. A neck. I like the neck on this. It's a nice rounded neck. In fact, in choosing this guitar, I also looked at the Studio. So there's the Studio and there's the Tribute, and I think they're fairly similar, but the neck profile is different. And I saw that the Studio has I think they call that slim taper, which is why I went for this one. One of the reasons I went for this one. But the neck's fine. It's satin. It's very smooth, obviously. It's not chunky. I mean, you've seen the measurements. Again, next week we'll compare it alongside all the others so you can see the profiles and see how they differ. But this is a good, medium, nice, you know, nice enough feeling neck. Gibson also make quite a big deal in the marketing blurb about the fact that this has modern weight relief, and on this occasion, that's a good thing because it means you can stand up playing it for much longer without it hurting your shoulder. It's not a bad thing, but it feels very different to most Les Pauls because it's, as we saw earlier, over a pound lighter. Or at least over a pound lighter, you know, more on a lot of occasions. So it feels a little bit different because of that. It's an interesting one, this, because a lot of people will buy this and say, yeah, brilliant, I've got a Gibson Les Paul. What you've really got is a tribute to a Gibson Les Paul. It's got enough differences to make it not as authentic as some of the cheaper options from Epiphone. But obviously the difference is this has got Gibson name on the headstock. But I suppose the question is it as good as those or better than those? So, as I've said, we're going to find out. So next week, what I'm going to do is compare them all. This one here with these. The Epiphone Les Paul Standard 50s. The Epiphone Limited Edition 1959 Les Paul Standard. The Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s. And just for fun, the Gibson Custom Les Paul Standard R8, 1958 reissue. So a wide range of prices there and models, ranging from 500 quid to I think about £4,000, the R8 these days. So it'll be interesting to see where the Tribute fits in. We know where it fits in financially. It's on the cheaper end. But is it better than the Epiphones? We're going to do lots of different sound comparisons, or I'm going to try anyway, to get a realistic view of how different they sound, both acoustically and plugged in. And we've got lots of shots of all of those, the internals and stuff, so I should be able to drop a lot of that stuff in as well. Okay, so yeah, that's that. That's what we're going to do next week. So, providing I get it made in time. What would be great is if you can come back and join me, and we'll find out. We'll find out how that all went, and if we manage to decide anything. I mean, obviously, all this stuff is purely subjective anyway. It's what suits you. I can see why any bum, I can see why anyone as well would want this, because it's a proper Les Paul. Well, it must be. It's got Gibson and it's got Les Paul on the headstock, so it must be a proper Les Paul. Certainly sounds like a Les Paul, doesn't it? I don't think there's any question about that, is there? So there you go. It's cool. All right. Well, I've enjoyed that this week. So thank you very much. I hope to see you again next week. All right. Cool. Cheers for now. Draw.